On June 30th, 2020, the California Department for Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH, sued Cisco Systems for caste discrimination against one of its Indian origin employees, someone belonging to the scheduled caste, which is the lowest caste in the Indian caste system hierarchy. Now, this case was initially filed as a federal lawsuit. Indian Americans and Indian people across the world reacted to this case based on their notions of social justice and their caste and social backgrounds. For many people of oppressed castes, this case just confirmed something that they knew all along, that caste discrimination was real even in the United States, and that this was something that was facing people in their communities and themselves. In the first weeks of July 2020, Ambedkar King Study Circle, or AKSC, launched a campaign to collect testimonies of caste discrimination in the United States. And within a few weeks, they collected over 100 testimonies and published them. These testimonies ranged with caste discrimination in many contexts, from the workplace, from cultural settings, from schools, so many places where caste discrimination continued to proliferate in the United States. Then Ambedkar Study Circle launched an effort for caste-related education amongst anti-caste Indians, as well as to raise consciousness about what the caste discrimination situation really looks like for the broader United States context. Then Ambedkar King Study Circle, AKSC, along with other progressive organizations, organized a lecture series to talk about the issue of caste discrimination, to raise consciousness amongst the American public about the fact that caste discrimination is going on, and to encourage anti-caste Indians to speak up about this, criticize this, and make transformative change in their own contexts. Then, in October 2020, the case moved from the federal court to the state court, particularly California Superior Court. This is because California's court and California's law allows a broader range of civil rights issues than the federal court does under Title VIII. This clears the ground to actually address caste discrimination through the law. In December 2020, Cisco and the two managers of Indian origin challenged the DFEH's authority to pursue this lawsuit, arguing that the matter could be handled through direct arbitration with the victim. However, in March 2021, the court rejected Cisco's claims. Then the company appealed. But finally, in August 2022, the appellate court upheld the DFEH's ability to pursue this case. Now, over 2 years had passed, just determining whether the department could reasonably pursue a case against caste discrimination through litigation. This energy was upheld, which itself was a major win in the fight against caste discrimination from a legal perspective. During this time, around January 2021, this case got a little messier when groups and people associated with Hindu supremacy, caste discrimination, and caste supremacy started to view this case as an existential threat. They tried to smear and paint this case as one against Hindus in general, and therefore argued against the case on the basis of religious freedom. Now, in reality, this case wasn't against Hinduism in general. It was specifically a case against caste discrimination. One of the major groups participating in these Hindu supremacist attacks is the Hindu American Foundation. In September 2022, they launched a counterattack by filing a federal lawsuit against the California Department for Fair Employment and Housing, which was now called the California Civil Rights Department, in federal court. In August 2023, the court responded by reaffirming that this case was about caste discrimination, not about defining Hinduism. This marked another important legal victory in the fight against caste discrimination in the United States. However, the court did allow the Hindu supremacists to amend their complaint since they weren't in direct association with the actual case. The Cisco managers filed motions to dismiss themselves from the case, citing Reno versus Baird 1998, which provided immunity for individual managers regarding discrimination claims under California law. However, it is very important to understand that how California law addresses workplace discrimination and harassment also includes the division of responsibilities between corporate employers and individual supervisors or managers. According to California law, discrimination typically arises from official employment actions, such as hiring, firing, and job assignment, activities that fall within a manager's job scope. Harassment, however, pertains to actions outside of a manager's official job duties, which includes a variety of types of abusive behavior, and this can lead to personal liability for individual supervisors. In April 2023, the two managers were removed from the Cisco case. However, the overall case remained intact and continued against Cisco. Now, what has happened since then? In September 2023, Hindu supremacist groups filed an amended complaint in federal court. However, in January 2024, the state court rejected their attempt to intervene in the Cisco case, effectively ending their involvement in the case. As a result, they are no longer part of the Cisco litigation and remain involved only in the separate federal case they filed against the Civil Rights Department. This is a third major victory for the fight against caste discrimination in the United States. In October 2020, the department requested the court to compel Cisco to produce internal communications containing specific terms such as caste, color, untouchable, outcast, Dalit, Hindi, Hindu, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra to examine how caste operates within the company. Cisco paused this process, citing the pending arbitration proceedings. Finally, on December 5, 2022, after the court lifted the stay on discovery, these discussions resumed. The initial request, which included a broader list of 21 terms, yielded an overwhelming 348,000 documents or items. Cisco argued that reviewing these documents before handing them over would cost approximately $1.45 million. On November 15, 2024, the court narrowed the search criteria, instructing Cisco to share documents specifically tied to the aforementioned terms. This is the fourth major victory for the Civil Rights Department. Here's the current status of this case. The next case conference will be on the 2nd of July, and the subsequent one will be on the 6th of August. Let us remember that casteism, racism, and all forms of discrimination are not just social evils, they're inhuman. It is time for us to rise together and build a society free from all evils, all forms of exploitation, all forms of discrimination, all forms of oppression, including caste. Thank you.